Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some additional columns that I added to the investment tab. And I will probably have to rename it sooner or later because I'm adding stuff to this tab that is not really related to investment anymore. I mean, yeah, there is the investment of the unit, but also some additional stuff on top. So we'll see. Maybe we'll change the name. If you have any good ideas, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so the new columns are going to be about team building mainly. So what does the unit provide to the team, what they need from the team, what they counter, and which kind of units they work well with, and also some example team compositions. We're going to go in detail about the different questions, but first I wanted to talk about why, as you are already seeing here on the screen, most of it is still kind of blank, empty, whatever. The main reason is that I focus on DPS units first because you usually build the team around the DPS. And for all the other units, I focused on the first question. So what does this unit provide to the team? And the rest is a bit kind of neglected at the moment. I will work on that. It will take a lot of time. So be prepared. I will slowly update it. But the most important thing is that DPS units have all the information, and we're going to see also, like, for example, Wangrang, Irang, etc., as we go down all the DPS units. If I remember correctly, maybe I missed some, but whatever. They have the whole information already figured out and written. So for them, they're fine. All the other units will follow. It will take some time. Before going like over an example here, like for example, Adam, I also wanted to share an additional tab I'm preparing that is still not shared with you because, I mean, I just started working on it. And it's going to be sort of a team example for different stages of the game. Let me know in the comments if it makes sense, if you would change the layout in any way to make it clearer. I don't know. I'm open to any kind of idea. And the kind of sections that I planned for now are going to be the 3 teams. So as soon as you get to 3 teams, what you can try to build. And for this one, I'm only considering without collab units because if you're already, if you were already playing when the collab was out, you're likely already at 4 teams. So yeah, not really too helpful. So 3 teams will only be for, again, new players, what you can try to build. Here I also have 2 variations based on whether you pick Eden or Kaiser. Fine. They're still work in progress, so don't focus too much on this. I was just looking for your feedback on how to structure it. Then the other sections are going to be the 4-team section. These are going to be split in below and above 300 deficit, and also without or with collab. And the same applies to 5 teams. So again, 4 sections, below 300 deficit, above 300 deficit, without or with collab. I will try to make the comps as relatable as possible. So we'll try to avoid using units you might not have or that might be hard to acquire, especially in the below 300 section and in the 4 teams section. In the 5 teams, I will try to place some teams that are more like expensive, let's say, because again, this should just be an indication for you on how to build some potential teams to get some ideas. But it's impossible to tell you you have to use these teams, period. That's not possible. So I would just try to put as much variety as I can and don't just take them for the best possible comps. I will try to make them like for the without collab and the with collab, I will definitely try to make them not the same so that you have more options to look for. And yeah, they're not to be copied just blank, and you take them and you say, okay, they're going to work. It's not necessarily going to work. Depends on who you are facing, etc., etc. So just, again, examples for you to take inspiration from, let's say. Let me know what you think of this tab, and if it makes sense, I will definitely invest some time on creating it. Now, back to the main topic of today's video. I will go over the different questions and, like in Eden's case, try to see why I replied in a certain way. And then we're also going to focus on the team comp example. That is really important to understand the logic behind how I structured it, because neither of these comps are going to be best in slot comps. And we're going to go over the detail in a second. So the first question I have here is, what does this unit provide to the team? So obviously, if it's a support, I will kind of list the main effects or buffs, debuffs that the unit provides. And in the case of a DPS like Adam, we have just single target max HP percentage damage. So for most DPS units, there would be some sort of mention into the damage dealt. That's kind of obvious. And then, like in Eden's case, we have a good single target crowd control capabilities, thanks to his passive, etc., etc. So really, really good for that as well. Then we have the second question, that is, what does this unit need from the team? This is important to understand also when future units come out, if that future unit will have something that can help that DPS out. So for Eden, what we're looking for is mainly energy, survivability so that he can stay alive and deal damage, obviously, HP recovery block, and barrier break. Both of them, like both HP recovery block and barrier break, are going to be important because it's super annoying when the enemies just heal up all the damage that your Eden is doing, or just have barriers to prevent it entirely. That's going to be super annoying, so you definitely want to have countermeasures for that. Then we have the questions about which enemies should you avoid. And with Eden, you kind of want to avoid enemies that have long invincibility and that can basically void all the damage you're doing, that have multiple summons that will just make Eden target some different units, and if the enemies have frequent barriers and heals, that again can be countered if you have HP recovery block and barrier break. This doesn't mean that Eden is going to lose against those enemies, just you're going to struggle a bit more, let's say. That's kind of the idea behind this question. Then we have the last question, that is, which enemies is this unit good against? At times, these two questions will overlap a little bit, so you will see basically the same answers. Other times, they might be different. But in this case, I wrote tanky units, thanks to his max HP damage that just ignores resistances, defense, and whatever, will just deal max HP damage really good. And also units that you can paralyze and stun because of his good crowd control capabilities. So in this case, there was a bit of overlap with the first question. Other times there will be overlap with this third question, which enemies should you avoid, etc., etc. But yeah, in general, this is more or less what I planned out to provide this information for every single unit. Let me know if you would like to remove one of them and replace them with something else, or if you would like to add more questions entirely. Let me know in the comments. Again, I'm always open for additional feedback. Then we have this section where I just add some key teammates and also some explanation as to why they are recommended, and also some additional information at times. I added also a background for some units. You will see the explanation here in the header, and that is, teammates with the light blue background are very important to a unit's performance. So in this case, Mamanak, as we can read here, helps with survivability and provides huge amounts of energy. So that's really, really important. And Anniversary Iwa also helps with survivability. Then we also have some additional units like Nare and BAM, because both of them provide energy, really, really good. And Evan would be a good alternative to Anniversary Iwa if you're running BAM. So I also added that additional information, because if you're running BAM, you can also slot in an Evan, and it can manage most of the survivability alone. You don't really need to run Anniversary Iwa at that point. So yeah, this is kind of the information you can find here. For some other units, I might provide something more, like maybe for like BAM, I provided also the explanation as to how his energy application works and some additional notes. So there might be some varying like kinds of information in here. This is kind of the general rule, I would say. Now for the last columns about the team comp examples, as I wrote in the header, there are many more possibilities, and these are just a few examples and are not the best ones. And we can clearly see it already here with Eden, but it's also important to read this section here. The composition above, and this description is the same for every single unit. So the comp above we'll try not to use units that you might not have. So data tower units are excluded, and collab units, unless they were in the same banner. Like for example, if we're going for Ejin, I could use 003 because she was in the same banner as him. But if but I'm not going to use Alice or 002 as an example. So if you have Ejin and you're trying to use him as a DPS, chances are you also have 003. I'm not saying I recommend to use 003 with Ejin, just saying this is kind of the logic behind it. So collab units are excluded. Data tower units are excluded for now until we know exactly how they rerun them. And family heads units as well. So that's kind of the idea. And they're going to be, again, mono element. So they're going to be comps you can use for trials, and you should be able to run them regardless because they are units that are always available. The second comp, the one below, will be multi-element or can be multi-element. That kind of depends. But we'll try not to use too many high-demand units. And high-demand units are units like Albelda, Anniversary Iwa, Mamanak, etc., etc. Units that you might want to run on multiple units. I will try to exclude them, or at best, like use one of them. I will try not to use like Albelda plus Mamanak plus Aiwa. No, that's not happening. So yeah, one or two at best. So these are the examples. We have first full yellow team. We have Tank Hats as the tank of the team. We have Evan Bam. And the positioning is also important. I decided to do this structure to show where I would place certain units. So we have an Evan that I like to place in the front lane quite often. And we have Bam here. Bam is going to provide energy to both Evan and also to your Eden. So really, really important. He's not going to provide energy to Irang, unfortunately. For that, you would have to place Bam where Tankats is, but at times it could be tricky. With Bari, it's possible. I also like to place Bam in the middle, but kind of depends. For now, this is sort of a basic compositions you could try to run. Irang is just there for a bit of grouping and to protect the team a bit more, because if the enemies are grouped up away from your team, they're not going to hit your backline, usually, kind of depends. So yeah, this is kind of a generic team comp. I didn't add, as an example, Kranos Yuri, even though she would have the HP recovery block that would be pretty beneficial, mainly because very few people will have an orange 4 Kranos Yuri. And before orange 4, she's kind of irrelevant, and that's why I didn't place her. Irang, in this case, could be 0 dupes. You wouldn't care, would be just fine. And then for the second comp, we have Evan, we have Bam, again, we have Mamanak, we have Ice Spear Kunagero, because this time there is no restriction on data tower unit, family heads, or collab units. So in this case, the data tower unit Ice Spear Kunagero is fine, and I added him. There is no grouping, so it's not the best pick in this scenario, but still can help quite a bit. So yeah. Ideally, you would also want to have a rank. So maybe you could place Bam here, Irang here, and you would have a good kind of setup. Bam that provides energy to all 3 range units. And then you have Kunagero that is going to decrease the energy on an AoE, blockage recovery, etc., etc. So really good comp, but that would have been probably a bit too tricky. And again, monocolor. So I tried to avoid that. And Mamanak is really, really good with Eden, so I also wanted to highlight that. But yeah, as you can see, there are many more variations than what I'm showing. So I would say try to refer to the questions to understand on your own how to better structure a team. Also, I could have used Anniversary Iwa instead of Bam plus Evan. The issue there is that we're using both Mamanak and Anniversary Iwa. They're both high demand units. So that was also sort of banned from my rules specified here. Let me know if this is too strict, if you would also like, I don't know, additional columns with some unrestricted team comps. Maybe I could do that, and we'll see. But let me know in the comments. So yeah, this is the idea. I don't want to make the video too long, but this is the kind of information we'll find for every DPS unit at the moment. And yeah, if you find any mistakes, anything to correct, again, let me know in the comments or via Discord. And yeah, I would say that's pretty much all. We'll see each other probably tomorrow. I think they're going to release information on both David and Hugo. We'll see. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.